Your Honor, I would like to start off by, first of all, thanking you for taking the time to take our arguments into consideration in defense of Rocha Masonry, LLC. My name is Landon Robinson, and I am the safety supervisor for Rocha Masonry. Now, as you are already aware, the plaintiff claims that they are due workers' compensation benefits for an alleged injury that they claim to have sustained while cleaning a concrete pump on our job site on April 14th of 2009. Now, we know that that is not true, and as we continue with this presentation, you will understand why that is not true. And not only did we not hire Mr. Campos-Brizuela, but we have reason to believe that he is being completely fraudulent in these claims and that they hold no weight because he is faking it. Now, if I could direct your attention to our presentation of evidence. Now, if at any point you are unable to read this projection board, this projector, I have also electronically submitted a form that has all the different photos of the different evidence that we are using, all the different exhibits for you to view in case you are unable to see them. Now, let's start off with Exhibit A. Exhibit A, we had our Human Resources Department, payroll manager, Mrs. Amanda Dustin. She pulled the payroll register from the year 2009 for the month of April for all of the employees that were currently employed by Rocha Masonry LLC. Now you will notice, hopefully, that nowhere on this list is Mr. Campos-Brizuela, the plaintiff's name. Now, his associate, Mr. Felipe Quintero, is on here, but there is no record of the plaintiff being hired by us at any point because we never did. Moving on to Exhibit B. Here's an employee termination form on behalf of Mr. Quintero, Mr. Brizuela, for being terminated from his previous job as a mover because he was trying to fraudulently claim workers' compensation benefits. Now, of course, this is an official document. It is signed by not only Campos-Brizuela and dated by him, but it is also signed by his former supervisor, Mr. Robert Malone. Now, moving on, after the alleged incident occurred, I took it upon myself as the safety professional on site to undergo an accident investigation. Now, there were only two individuals that were in the vicinity that I could take witness statements from after everything else had been settled, as it normally is during an accident investigation. Those two people are the supervisor, Nathan Draney, and the concrete mason who was pouring concrete, Mr. Jared Butler. Now, these two individuals have very similar stories. So, in the case of Nathan Draney, he was undergoing his job supervising when he was approached by the plaintiff. And the plaintiff had told him that he was going to go clean a concrete pump. Now, Mr. Draney says that he did not recognize the plaintiff as it was his first day on the job site, not hired, because Mr. Draney assumed that Human Resources had taken care of all the paperwork, and because concrete is a fast-moving industry, he decided that the best course of action was to just let it go. Now, during that time, a few minutes afterwards, he heard a scream, and when he had gone to figure out where the scream had come from, it had come from Mr. Campos-Brizuela, who was loaded up into a truck that belonged to and was driven by Mr. Quintero, who told Mr. Draney that they were headed to the hospital. Now, in the case of Exhibit D, in the case of Jared Butler had finished loading up towards the end of the day at around 5:40. He had finished loading up the tray of the concrete pump, a small concrete pump that we used on site. And after he had finished, he was approached by Mr. Quintero, who told him that he could leave early and that Mr. Quintero would take care of the job. Now, in doing so, Mr. Butler was no objection from him, of course, who doesn't like to go home from work early, right? So it was being taken care of, allegedly, by Mr. Quintero. Mr. Butler decides that he's going to go to the bathroom before he leaves. And as he is leaving, he hears the same thing that Mr. Draney does. Now, Mr. Butler gets to the scene a little bit late, and Mr. Draney tells Mr. Butler that everything that I had just explained to you had occurred. They had sped off in their pickup truck and they were going to a hospital. Speaking of which, they did not end up going to a hospital immediately because we were contacted later that night by a Dr. Ima Lyer of North Carolina Urgent Care. Very interesting that we got a call from them because it turns out that Mr. Campos-Brizuela had informed Dr. Ima Lyer incorrectly that he worked for us. We got a call from Dr. Lyer and they provided us with a copy of a prescription that they had written for Mr. Campos-Brizuela. It is a pain medication known as hydrocodone. Now, of course, us believing that the nature of this is fraudulent, the hydrocodone prescription leads us to believe that there is a little more to be gained than just money from a fraudulent claim. Moving on, speaking of the concrete pump, here is the concrete pump in question that I took a picture of during my accident investigation, as is proper standard operating procedure. Now, as you can see, this tray is full of concrete ready to be pumped. That was filled up by the previously mentioned Mr. Butler. So it's very interesting that Mr. Brizuela would tell the supervisor, Mr. Draney, that he is going to go and clean something that has just been primed to be used and poured. Very interesting. That doesn't make a lot of logistical sense. Doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Why he would do that. Now, after the injury, I would direct your attention to Exhibit G. Now, after the incident, it looks like it's about a month afterwards. On May 14th of 2009, our private investigator that was employed by Rocha Masonry for instances just like this, our private investigator, one Matthew Sharp's PI, he went and tailed this individual. He tailed Campos-Brizuela in order to make sure that he was being honest, which, as you can see by him enjoying a nice game of hockey a month after allegedly getting his hand so disabled and injured within that concrete pump that he virtually lost all movement and function of it. Very interesting that this individual is so tough and so strong that they are able to play hockey not even a month later. Very interesting, but not just that. If you will, if I could direct your attention to Exhibit H, we can see that Mr. Campos-Brizuela, in the same day, made another trip to the hardware store after that game of hockey because he had to pick up what we can assume are 2 5-gallon buckets full of what appears to be ceiling sealant or roofing sealant. That stuff's not light, especially when you packed all of it into a 5-gallon bucket. Freshly sealed, by the way, so you know all the contents are in there. How is he doing that with his right hand when it's supposedly supposed to be injured and disabled? I mean, that's why he's claiming workers' comp, right? Let's go on to Exhibit I. Maybe that can clear us up. It appears as though he's moving a cart that has a complete and large granite countertop on it. No trouble there. He's at Lowe's. This is right after the bucket thing. How is he doing this? His hand is supposed to be injured, yet he's having no problem here. In Exhibit J, he is at Walmart. He is at Walmart, and he has slung a bag of dog food over his shoulder like it's nothing. Now, it's very interesting that he's able to do this, but moving on, in conclusion, here's the contact information for both our private investigator, Matthew Sharps, who took all of those photographs, as well as myself. Now, I would implore you, Your Honor, to make a judgment based on everything you have seen here today. Take into consideration the statements and claims made by the plaintiff, Mr. Brizuela, compared to everything that he has been shown to do not even a month after the alleged incident that he claims took place. I know that whatever you make will be in your best judgment, and I hope that you will take everything that we said into consideration, and I thank you for your time.